Okay, now we're going to go over the right triangle trigonometry practice. It's the first assignment in this unit. It says Unit 1 at the top, but we're calling it Unit 2, and that's not a big deal. All right, so let's zoom in. All right, we're looking for cosine of this angle, so always mark your angle first, and then label your diagram. So this is the opposite, this is the adjacent, and this is the hypotenuse. And just remember that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And now it's just a matter of substituting in the values. So the cosine of theta in this case will be the adjacent 20 over the hypotenuse 25, and then just reduce 4/5. And that's our answer. It's not going to do it. Okay. Cotangent. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So if tangent's opposite over adjacent, this one is going to be adjacent over opposite. So we identify our angle. Theta is here. From that theta, 4 is the opposite. 3 is the adjacent. And 5 is the hypotenuse. So if we're looking for the cotangent of theta, the adjacent over the opposite, it will be 3/4. Can't reduce that anymore. Nope, not going to do it. Oh, that's the wrong problem. Okay, that makes sense. All right, moving on. Let's see. Find the measure of each side indicated round to the nearest tenth. Okay, we know this angle is 33 degrees. 6 is the opposite. X is the hypotenuse. CB is the adjacent. But we're not too worried about that value. We're just looking for the hypotenuse. We know the opposite, and we're looking for the hypotenuse. So we're going to pick the one that has opposite and hypotenuse in it. So that will be sine. And the sine of theta equals OPP over HYP. And now we substitute all the values. We know the sine of theta is actually 33 degrees. The opposite is 6. The hypotenuse is our x. All right, we want to isolate that variable. And since it's in the denominator, and we're going to swap its location with the sine of 33. And if you have any sort of a decent calculator, you can put this all in at the same time using the TI-36X Pro. I got 6 over the sine of 33. I'm in degrees. I hit enter. What does it say? Round to the nearest tenth. So I got 11.01. So I'm going to say x approximately 11.0. Putting the 0.0 in there just identifies that you did round it to the nearest tenth because you included that tenth in there. Perfect. All right, let's move on to number 4. Nope, this is our angle. This is the OPP. This is the HYP. Opposite and the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. And you're going to use the same. You're going to use the same one here. We're looking for the opposite. We know the hypotenuse, so we're going to use sine. So the sine, and I'm going to go right into the substitution. Sine of 38 equals x over 2. So the next step is going to be a little bit different. In order to get x by itself, we need to eliminate that denominator of 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. This side will cancel off, and we end up with 2 times the sine of 38 degrees equals x. So you can do this all in one step. 2 times sine 38 in my calculator. Hit enter. And I get x is approximately, it's 1.23. So round to the nearest tenth, that would be 1.2. Okay, I think we have another one like this. Wait, let me give you a second. Okay, moving on. All right, this is our angle. This is the opposite side. This is the adjacent side. That's the hypotenuse. We know the opposite. We're looking for the adjacent. So what will we pick? The only one of these that has both opposite and adjacent in it is tangent. So the tangent of 34 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. That's 2 over x. And then we can swap locations of the x and the tangent of 34. I can do this all in one step on my calculator. 2 over tangent 34. And I get 2.965. So 2.965. 2.9 will round up to 3.0. I'm going to leave it as a 0.0 so they know that it's accurate at least until the 10th. Okay, the next section. Find the measure of the indicated angle to the nearest degree. So now we're looking for angles. So they identified the angle that we're looking for, and then I'll mark the diagram. This is opposite that angle. This is adjacent, and this is hypotenuse. So we know the adjacent, and we know the hypotenuse. So, So which one of these has adjacent and hypotenuse? That's cosine. So I'll say cosine, and I'll just leave it as a theta, even though they have a question mark. And it's adjacent over hypotenuse, so 50 over 54. Now, our variable is this, theta. So we need to move the word cosine over to the other side. And when we do that, it will change to arc cosine. So cosine -1, and then it's 50 over 54. So the arc cosine of 50 over 54, and you can do that on your calculator all in one step. 50 divided by 54. And it says to the nearest degree. So I got theta to be 22.191 or 192. So to the nearest degree, that is, theta is approximately 22 degrees. Okay. They gave you this angle. 6 would be the opposite. 18 is the hypotenuse. And the other side is the adjacent. But we don't know anything about the adjacent, so that's probably not going to factor in. So, So we know the opposite and the hypotenuse. So we need to pick the one with opposite and hypotenuse. That's sine. Sine of theta equals 6 over 18. I can reduce that. It doesn't really save me much time. But we have to get theta by itself. We have to move the word sine over to the other side. That turns it into arc sine. And then 6 over 18, I'll reduce that to 1/3. So the arc sine of 1/3 All right, put it in the calculator, and I got 19.47, which is almost enough to round that up to 20, but it's not. It's 0.47, so it stays at 19. So theta is approximately 19 degrees. I believe there's one more. Oh yeah, here we go. Ooh, a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So you know all the sides here. So you can actually pick any of the trig functions that you want. But first, from that angle, this is the opposite. This is the adjacent, and this is the hypotenuse. And I could pick any of these to use. I've used cosine and sine already, so this time I'll use tangent. Tangent's opposite over adjacent. So the tan of theta equals 30 over 40. And now I can move the word tangent over to the other side and make it arctangent. Theta equals, and then 30 over 40, I'll reduce that to 3/4. So arctangent of 3/4 is 36.86. So 36.8 is going to round up to approximately 37. Whoop. Let me just erase that. Make it approximately 37 degrees. Good job, everyone. All right, good luck.